everybody and welcome back to my channel. In today's video I'm going to be showing you my GCSE sketchbooks. They're quite old, I haven't looked at them in a very long time, so you're going to see my reaction to my old sketchbooks. So let's get straight into it. Okay, so I'm going to start with this sketchbook, which is one of my year 11 sketchbooks, I think, and it's titled Surfaces. Now, unfortunately, I couldn't find, or my parents couldn't find, all of my sketchbooks. So I've got a couple from my GCSEs, but not all of them. But I do have some of the final pieces from year 10, so I'll show you that as well. So from when I was between 14 and 16, these sketchbooks are from then. I just want to point out a caveat though, that this is not a how to get an A in GCSE, because I think things have changed quite a lot since I took GCSE Art. So I did get an A, however, I think that in terms of the quality of work that I created, I think that nowadays things are a lot more advanced in GCSE Art. So this one is titled Surfaces and my marking is here. So my teacher has marked me as confident and also fluent in this part of the work. I got 70 out of a possible 80 marks for this project. So that was an A/A star, and I was really pleased with that at the time when I received that grade. However, when I got my actual final GCSE grade, I was disappointed that I didn't get that A star overall. So I got an A but not an A star. So the project is Surfaces. So created a little title here. So this is just with like sticky back paper. I was a real fan of that for this project. So to start with, I have created a spider diagram for surfaces. So I've got definition for the word surface and then lots of words and ideas based around that. So I've got different materials I could use. So there's a few different ideas within my spider diagram, which is something that I do get my students to do for a project. I do get them to work on a spider diagram at the beginning of the project, just to think of different ideas on what they could do for their project. I was interested in looking at roses and René Mackintosh, so I have created this rose in the style of René Mackintosh, just using a graphite pencil. Again, this is work that I haven't looked at in such a long time, so this is kind of like looking over it with fresh eyes. Okay, so developing the idea of this rose and water, so I think we're going to potentially see a lot of this. I do remember drawing quite a bit of this rose in one of my projects. Okay, so then thinking about raindrops and water splashes. Not the best drawing, have to admit, like the actual quality of that drop of water isn't brilliant. I think nowadays with the internet and using YouTube, my students do have better quality drawings than this because there are so many different tutorials. However, when I was studying GCSE Art, there was no YouTube, so there wasn't access to these types of tutorials and people showing you how to create things, which I think if I had had that at GCSE, I would have spent all of my time practicing and working on my skills. So not the best drawing, but I think, you know, for a 14-year-old, not too bad. This looks like some sort of tulip that I've added some notes about. Again, it looks a bit sort of clumsy, not the best drawing. Practicing my shading though, which is a pretty good thing to try out when you are practicing your drawing skills. Some random foil, you know, because why not? So some different textures of foil, some artists without any information. If I was marking this as a GCSE project, I'd be seriously questioning why there is no information about the artist that has been included. Another piece, blank page next to it. Great work, Gemma. And another one. So I've referenced René Mackintosh, but I haven't included any of his images in this. So what was I thinking? And another one, and another one. Nice page filling here, I think. Okay, onto a still life. So still life of a shell, quite a nice drawing. So we can see it's quite a nice little drawing here of a shell, some shading work. I've got some cross hatching on there. I quite like that one. Let's read the annotation. Let's see what I've written. My sketch of the show has turned out rather good. I'm rather pleased. So nice little annotation there about this still life. rather good. Test strips from photography. This was not my GCSE, this is from when I was at university. So they have snuck in that. I don't know how, but I do have some test strips. I think because when I've stored things, they all get sort of a little bit muddled. If you want to see any of my degree work, I did go to art school. If you are interested in seeing that, then let me know in the comments and I can show you my degree work. Another little still life drawing of a jawbone, but looking at the annotations, I was not happy with this. I didn't think it looked like a jaw at all. What do you think? Do you think it looks like a jawbone of an animal? I said that it was a disaster of a drawing. What do you think? Okay, we've got some textures in nature. Just a random piece of wood, collecting some leaves. You know what would be good? If I'd actually done like some rubbings from these, that would have been quite a nice way to link these into my project and show some skill, or, you know, just some ideas what these were actually for. Okay, so a little collage of that rose with colouring pencil and then just ripped up. I think this is where the sketchbook kind of becomes really cringeworthy, and I actually hate it. I've got some found sort of materials where I have created these really horrible pieces of artwork. Actually, so gross. Okay, so I've got a little bit of information on water and what I'm trying to create with the impression of water. But again, it would have been nice to have some drawings from these photographs that I have got in this sketchbook. So it would be really nice to get some drawings of each of these on this page, trying out some colouring pencils or painting, anything really, just to make it a bit more interesting. So I've now got some biro drawings. So thinking about my ideas, I've got one of those roses again. Obviously my obsession was real with these roses. I've got this rose in biro, and then these sort of patterns which I assume are starting to develop from some of these water ideas. So I've got a bit of an idea going on here with the rose and also a bit of a landscape and some water, and then more of those sort of like tulip ideas and some stems, and then again that rose but within a really hectic looking vine by the looks of it. So starting to build up some tonal values and some skill with biro pen. So it's nice to see a little bit of a break from like those pencil drawings and then those awful collages. I was thinking about the juxtaposition between the actual feeling of those surfaces. So creating a soft texture for the actual vines in contrast to what they would actually feel like, and then a rough texture for the rose. So playing on those textures of the surfaces a little bit. I started to then work with this sticky back plastic paper, which is translucent. This is horrendous. It looks a bit like a cinnamon whirl that needs baking. I think I need to contact Cinnabon, see if they're missing a little bit of dough. Okay, so I'm practicing or trying out different textures. So I have layered up some of this sticky back plastic and also a clear film plastic which has got a texture on it, and I'm layering that up to see how the textures would work. Okay, so I made myself a little stamp and then tried that out. Now, I used to spend a lot of time trying to get to sleep at night time, and then I would end up just creating some really random artwork instead, and I'd be up for all hours of the night just making artwork in my bedroom. And I suppose this is just some of the remnants of my insomnia. I think what would have been good for this sketchbook is if I would have referenced Renee McIntosh, if I'd also looked at Monet for some of the reflections on water with flowers, because at the moment none of my references really are in my work. It doesn't relate to anything that I've actually looked at so far. So I think this is a final piece idea, so a rough sketch of my final piece. When I'm marking my student sketchbooks, I do like to see a bit more in terms of a final piece plan. I usually get them to try out 3 or 4 final piece ideas that relate to their project, whereas I've just got this one in mind. And it shows sort of a water surface with a sunset, and then I have got these roses dotted on the surface of the water, and I've got annotations all the way around to explain what my idea is. I did create this in either an exam or a mock exam, I can't quite remember, and I do have it, but I feel like I'm exposing myself so badly right now, but I guess I'll show you guys. Yeah, I'll show you, I guess. This next project, I have no idea why it's not actually in a sketchbook any longer. I must have ripped pages out and things like that, which is quite sad that I haven't got the original sketchbook anymore, so I haven't got that sort of development work with my spider diagram or the title page. I only have it as like pieces of paper that were just kind of shoved in another sketchbook. So I'm going to show you what I have from this one. From this annotation, I can kind of gather that it was called Safely Contained, and I was thinking about the human figure. This is quite a figure heavy project that I had created, and from that I then looked at these sort of still lifes, so these bodies. Maybe I looked at this first. So maybe I looked at this first with these bodies like contorted, and then that led me on to thinking about bodies entwined. So I also looked at this picture here as a reference image, and it looks as though I had used charcoals. I absolutely hate charcoals, so this was probably something my teacher had asked me to use, because I wouldn't usually use charcoal because I don't like the feeling of it on the paper. It would have been nice as well to get a picture, or drawing, sorry, of this in my sketchbook as well. So thinking about sort of contortionist, I guess I then looked at sort of different ways in which the body would kind of curl and look after itself and kind of comfort itself. And when I was at high school, there was this sort of 3D relief that someone had created from the ceiling that was very similar to this, and that's obviously where I got my inspiration from. But I suppose this also is a little bit more surrealist in terms of like bodies within containers. So obviously I was taking that quite literally, safely contained, containing a person within an object or a vessel. From there I then looked at some anatomy drawings, and I've drawn knees or legs in various positions, so bent legs and straight legs there. I've got one from the side view, and this looks like sort of a back of a leg. I think that these are really nice little drawings actually, and if my students were looking at anatomy, then I think this would be a really good thing to do to show your understanding of the shape proportions of a body. I think this would be a really good thing to show in your sketchbook. And also I think these are quite nice little tonal drawings. They're a little bit dark around the edges, like the lines are quite dark. Other than that though, I quite like these. And then I've got a few more of the knees, so front view of those knees there as well. And again, I quite like these as little drawings. And then I've got a little bit of a torso and somebody kind of like hunching or bending forward. So as a piece of work, I think that this is really quite nice. And if my students had created a couple of page spread on human figures, if they were looking at this, I think it would be a really good way to show their skills and their understanding of the human figure. From there I then looked at Yvonne Sheila and did a little painting study of this. And I've got another little piece there which is Self by Dali. So I've got a couple of sort of artist references here, thinking about human figures and holding yourself and things like that. Okay, and then I looked at Glenys Barton and that figure here. So I've got a little bit more of a reference idea in this sketchbook rather than that surfaces one, where I didn't really include any references that were relevant to the project. Again, it would be nice to have a copy or, you know, some work on this page relating to this piece. And then I think this is one my teacher asked me to look at, which is by Alan Jones. I was really happy with some of the acrylic painting on this piece. I then really randomly looked at a mermaid and a fish. I think I was mainly just like practicing my acrylic painting skills. because at this point I hadn't really used acrylics all that much, so I was practicing blending techniques from my light to my dark tones, and then just thinking about the form of this one here for this mermaid. And then I did put a glaze over it because I had a glaze and I'd never tried one before, so I was really excited to try out that glaze on my acrylics, and I just thought it'd be really quite cool on a mermaid, obviously, which I have no idea the relevance of, but obviously I was into it. Okay, I then sketched out this figure of a female, and this is actually from a photography book that I have, but I really liked the pose, and I think she was actually a ballerina, and I just liked the confidence of her body positioning. But I was thinking about self-expression and ballet as an outlet at this point, and then I suppose I just rolled with this idea of this figure. So I then started to think about colour. So I have this blue, and again, practicing my blending from light to dark or dark to light. So I've got another figure here as an idea. So just sort of like how a figure had been kind of divided up into different colours. So that's what I was thinking of here, I think. That's what it looks like anyway. So that's how I then reference like all of these things into that same idea. Then I kind of just rolled with this figure and created bits and bobs relating to this. So I have got sort of multiples of this figure kind of all arranged on the page and just in biro, so just experimenting with that. Then have a piece that I had drawn and then it was photocopied, but I had it photocopied for these lines, and I've written about how I really liked these defined lines within this piece. Got a patterned piece that I had created with lines and dots. It says about the opposite page, but I don't know what the opposite page is. Oh, I really wish I had this sketchbook. I've got this lead beading that I have worked on around the body. So I think I was starting to think about kind of having an outer layer on to protect yourself. If I were to do this now, I probably wouldn't outline it in lead, just because I think you do lose some of the definition, although I had written that it defines the bodies that much better. Ideas here, a main piece idea, so bodies interlocking gradually, getting smaller until it's just legs. Okay, and then I've got sort of an idea here, so again, more blue. And to be honest with you, I have just gone like straight from the tube of paint for these darker bodies here, and I did mix up my blue for the background, but I think not brilliant that I haven't like practiced any other types of blues other than just like straight from the tube from these ones. But this is in general like the idea that I was going for the final piece. Maybe I'm thinking about those bodies kind of being randomly placed on the page. Okay, and then I've got another rough idea where I've got a Metis style figure here, sort of like cut out, so slightly more stylized and a lot sort of sharper. And then over the top of that, I've then added on sort of a clear vellum paper or a tracing paper my figure drawing. So I quite like that idea. So the two juxtapositions of like those styles is quite nice. So I did look at Metis. Obviously I looked at Metis, but the work's not just, it's just not in here. Oh, there we go. I have got like sort of some ideas on that style of figure. So where the body kind of looks like it's moving, I suppose. So yeah, I did look at Metis, it's just not in here for some reason. I honestly don't know why I would have removed the Metis work and just gotten rid of it. And then this piece isn't from like within the sketchbook because it's not got that perforated edge, but I think this would have been a piece that I would have created to go alongside the sketchbook work. So I have just got sort of the legs that have been exposed. They're hanging from string, I can almost imagine, and then they're on a blue background. And I did find I found when I was looking through all of the stuff, like these coat hangers and these cardboard legs that were hanging. They were hanging from the coat hangers with like bits of thread. So it was obviously something I was kind of playing about with. It wasn't a finished idea, but it was going from this one here. So I think, you know, a lot of the time I was creating this artwork at home when I couldn't sleep, and it was all just like coming from my imagination, and this is what I came up with. I did have another couple of sketchbooks for GCSE Art, but they don't seem to be amongst all of my stuff for some reason. There was one of portraits, and I had drawn my brother. Mine is horrible. So good job I can't find that sketchbook. So this is one of my final pieces from year 10. So I would have been like 14 when I painted this, and it's probably one of the creepiest portraits I've ever seen. I think it's just around here. It's almost like a raccoon or something, you know, like a bit of a mask around here. It's not too bad. The colours aren't too bad. It's a little bit warm in tone, but it's not too bad. The lips are very, very wide, you know, like if you think about proportions, those lips are really quite wide, and the eyes are very, very large as well. But you know, I think for a 14-year-old's painting, and I think this was the very first time I had ever used acrylic paints as well, I think that is not too bad. So there you guys have it. That was my GCSE artwork. If you have enjoyed this video, give it a big thumbs up. I feel like I have completely exposed myself in this video, so please do give it a little bit of love. Also, let me know in the comments what you think of my GCSE artwork. Which pieces did you like? Which pieces did you think were absolute trash? Make sure you subscribe. I'll be back with another video next week. Thank you so much for watching. Bye guys.